Good morning. We begin with the next chapter now. We had finished Unit 4. Now we'll be starting with Unit 5. And the prose part of it is the summit within. What is actually summit? Summit is to reach a particular destination, especially a peak. Okay? You summit something, you reach that particular part of it. Now, if I talk about summit in the literal sense, it would be as if you are ascending and reaching a particular height. But as this particular title says, I'm talking about the summit within, the victory within, the conquer within. How is it possible that I talk about summit also and I talk about within also? The logic of this particular chapter is, it narrates an experience of a person who conquered the Everest. Yes, the Everest. You can see the twinkle in my eye, and those who know me know why. Everest is my favorite mountain. So he had conquered. He had managed to climb the peak, but his experiences were in contradiction with what was in his mind. 101% says you have to firstly conquer the dream within yourself. Then physically you will be able to reach that particular point, whatever you aim for in your life. If I talk about Everest over here, it's the most difficult ascent, it's the most difficult climb. Many climbers try to climb Everest, lose their lives in the process, but still people don't give up. The same goes with the journey of life. The journey of life is the same way as the trek to Everest. If you have that willpower in you, and determination in you, you can not only conquer the Everest, you can also conquer the difficulties which come across in your life. So very beautifully this person has expressed his journey by telling us how he conquered firstly the summit within himself, and then he conquered it in physical aspect. So let's get into the depth of the chapter. Major H.P.S. Ahluwalia was a member of the first successful Indian expedition to Mount Everest in 1965. How did he feel when he stood on the highest point in the world? Let us hear the story in his words, climbing the summit, and then the more difficult task of climbing the summit within. Summit, very good word. Summit in literal sense over here would be the peak of the mountain. But in our lives it would be the difficulties to come across, which we come across, and we have to get hold of the reins of our life and then fight back the problems, because everything is inbuilt over here. If you tell this thing in your body, you can do it, it will tell the entire body, yes, you can do it. Of all the emotions which surged through me as I stood on the summit of Everest, looking over miles of panorama below us, the dominant one, I think, was humility. So whichever emotions were popping out of him, out of all those, humility was the most prominent one when he stood on Everest. When you conquer something in your life, when you achieve something in your life, the first thing vulnerable you become to is becoming proudish. Humility is a virtue where you get things, you achieve things, but you're still grounded. You don't fly high in the sky boasting about yourself. You remain grounded. You don't show off. You're so humble in nature, saying, I'm thankful to God that He gave me this opportunity to climb this peak, which was the most difficult task of my life. Panorama is the scene, what you can see from the top. The physical in me seemed to say, thank God it's all over. Climb to the Everest is not easy. Your body is challenged in many ways. Firstly, the sub-zero temperatures, the thinness of the air because of the height of the mountain, lack of oxygen. You carry so much of weight on yourself, your oxygen cylinders, the things which are needed for you to climb the Everest, the tools, the climbing tools and all. So you are loaded not only with your own weight, body weight, you also loaded with so many things which you will be needing in the journey to get onto the peak. So physically, you challenged a lot and the body would say, thank God this ordeal is over. However, instead of being jubilant, there was a tinge of sadness. Now, jubilant means happy. Now, why was there a tinge of sadness when he had conquered Everest, when he had reached on the top? What happens is, when you have an aim in your life, you're working continuously hard to achieve that aim. You put in your heart and soul and body and mind, everything, every aspect to achieve it when you want to achieve it. But the moment it comes to an end, like you already have achieved it. Then what to do? You don't have a goal in your life because you already achieved whatever you wanted to achieve. So that pinch of sadness was there within me. Was it because I had already done the ultimate in climbing and there would be nothing higher to climb and all the roads hereafter would lead down? For a mountaineer, climbing the highest peak in the world would be a dream, and if the dream would come true and if it would make it true, after that there's nothing to do. But like you would go and climb the other mountains, but they are not as high as the Everest. So he was in a skeptical mood over here. Now that I've climbed up, now do I climb down? Now that means my life has always gone up in the graph. Now will my life go down is what this thought striking his mind. By climbing the summit of Everest, you are overwhelmed by a deep sense of joy and thankfulness. It is a joy which lasts a lifetime. The experience changes you completely. The man who has been to the mountains is never the same again. I would agree with the last line 100%. You be to the mountains and there's something mystical about the mountains which attracts you towards them. And if you're a mountaineer, you would not even think climbing Everest is not a easy task in the physical aspect, also in the economical aspect also. There are lakhs you need to spend in Indian currency. The people from abroad also who come over there to climb. You don't even think about your physical aspect, whether you could lose your life, that kind of adrenaline effect in you drives you over there. So all this into consideration, it's like a mixed feeling kind of a thing which would last with you for a lifetime, that you overcame so many obstacles, so many hindrances on your way and reached this. That memory would be so strong. As I look back at life after climbing Everest, I cannot help remarking about the other summit. The summit of the mind, no less formidable and no easier to climb. So when he came back, he would not only have, he did not only have the tales to tell about what he had done physically, but he also felt very strong in his mind as well. So along with that aspect, he was having another story to say about the building up of the strong mind. Even when getting down from the summit, once the physical exhaustion had gone, I began asking myself the question why I had climbed Everest. The ascent is also difficult, the descent is also difficult. When you reach the Hillary step, there are base camps here, there's one base camp, there's point 1 base camp, there's point 1 camp, point 2 camp, point 3 camp, point 4 camp. Then you've got Hillary step. Then you've got the peak. There are too many, I will send you a video where the entire process of ascent of Everest is described. If you have that interest, you will definitely watch, because it tickles my funny bone. Truly, it takes me to some other world when people talk about Everest. So I will be telling you what kind of difficulty you face when you climb that peak. Why did the act of reaching the summit have such a hold on my imagination? It was already a thing of the past, something done yesterday. With every passing day, it would become more remote. And then, what would remain? Would my memories fade away slowly? Something what you've done in the past, it must have given you the epitome of happiness. But after that, when you achieve that happiness, when you come off, and then that becomes a past memory, usually it fades out. But if something has had a very mighty impact on your mind, those memories never fade. All these thoughts led me to question myself as to why people climb mountains. It is not easy to answer the question. The simplest answer would be, as others have said, because it is there. It presents great difficulties. Now, man is a very unique personality. You tell a man, you can't do this, man will definitely do it. That's why we are where we are. We are the supreme living beings in the entire creation of God. If you tell a man that this is not possible, he will find a way of making it possible. So if you say, why do you climb mountains? Because the mountains are there, we climb it. That would be a lame in the mind answer. But for those who feel about it, will have a different perspective to it. So he says it does proposes great difficulties. So it's actually a challenge for us whether we can face those difficulties and move further. Man takes delight in overcoming obstacles. The obstacles in climbing a mountain are physical. A climb to a summit means endurance. Endurance means the bearing capacity of the mind and the body. Persistence, continuously having that particular strength in your mind and in your physical aspect. Yes, I can do it. And the willpower. If no matter what circumstances are coming across, if you have that willpower to say, yes, I will do it. It is a biological and scientific fact. Even if you don't have energy in your body, and if you keep telling your brain, yes, you can do it, yes, you can do it, it does make it happen. It does make it happen by hook or by crook. The demonstration of these physical qualities is no doubt exhilarating, as it was also for me. Exhilarating is very exciting. When you feel the most powerful, then definitely you feel good about yourself. Weaknesses don't make you feel good. Powerful makes really, if you feel powerful not as you go and fight a battle over there, but if you feel powerful in your mind, in your brain, saying, I can do it, I will do it, then definitely you feel very good about yourself. I have a more personal answer to the question. From my childhood, I have been attracted by mountains. I had been miserable, lost when away from mountains in the plains. So, me being a mountain lover, I know this. When you are away from mountains, when you are with mountains, it has an impact on your heart and soul. You are at ease because you are with the mountains which you love. And if you are with any loved thing or any loved human, you feel very comfortable and you feel very ecstatic, as if happiness has engulfed you and you're very peaceful and calm in your mind. So this guy, when he was away from the mountains, he used to feel miserable and sad. But when he used to be with mountains, he was very, very calm and quiet. Mountains are nature at its best. Their beauty and majesty pose a great challenge, and like many, I believe that mountains are a means of communion with God. Mountains are not noisy. We humans, when we visit mountains, we make such a commotion over there. We create such a great deal of noise over there. But still, when minus human, in the lockdown period, you must have noticed so many people from Punjab and Haryana, you could see the range of mountains over there. So nature heals itself. But if you talk about the nature of mountains, they're quiet, they are still, they are not proud, they are mighty. They are powerful, they are very difficult to conquer, but they don't boast. They allow people to live, they allow people, they serve the people. But if you talk about the nature of a mountain, it might look very powerful, but it is humble as well. So when you are on the top of a mountain, you feel very close to the sky, the clouds descend, and then you feel that you are in communication or in connection with the God. If you get a chance, there's a place in Uttarakhand called Oli. I have been there twice. So it's at a very great peak, a very great height, and you need to get onto the peak over there, and then from there you see all Nanda Parvat and all range of mountains all around you. So on almost, I would say, 3/4 you would see mountains only, and at the back you have your own mountain greenery. And in winter, it's the best place for skiing. People from abroad also come over there to ski. So it's a 40-meter descent and then a very good skiing spot. People have built there an artificial ice skating rink also, so you can skate on it as well. So, but do go and visit. Just sit there for half an hour. Don't talk to anybody. Let the damn phone go away. Just sit. The wind, when it blows, it whistles through your ears. You feel, aap na badal pe ho. Like when a cloud descends, you are amidst a cloud. You feel as if you are in heaven. Even though you are not dead, you feel you are in heaven. So that experience is some other level experience, but you need quietness for it, not chaos. Once having granted this, the question remains, why Everest? Because it is the highest, the mightiest, and has defied many previous attempts. Now it's a saying in the Nepalis, like when you go from Nepal side and go on to conquer the Everest, they call it Sagar Mata. Everest only allows them whom Everest wants them to conquer it. Most of them don't make it. They die, and because of some physical challenges, they come back. They have to give up because not that they would lose their life. There's frostbite. You really feel giddy. You get fever, and so many obstacles are there. Everest only allows them. It's a saying. It's a very strong belief among the Sherpas over there that Everest will allow only those to come whom Everest thinks are apt enough to conquer it. So we'll stop over here. It's going on a long lecture. I will proceed with it in the next lecture. Thank you, dear.